We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Antry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. And my goodness, I should have been ready for today, but you know, we're actually recording one day later than we normally do for scheduling reasons. And yeah, there we go. Just barely getting in here under the wire. In fact, I forced us to be a little bit late starting even for today's starting time.
I was going to be late anyways.
Okay.
We would have been a couple of minutes late anyways. So
and we got lots to cover, and not all the time in the world to do so. But I mean, should we wait any longer? People know what this week is. We've been teasing it for what, 3 weeks now? Is that what it's been? Yeah.
Winner announced.
It's going to be our Sofabaton X1S remote giveaway. We're going to draw 3 random names for three Sofabaton X1S
people
remotes.
Are going to win.
That's right.
That's a lot of remotes we're giving away. So
it sure is.
Tell all your friends that they missed out when we gave out remotes because it's too late now.
And so you know what? I am going to say here, I think I'll repeat it after we're done this draw here. But obviously, out of all the people who emailed us kindly and entered this, and we had 115 entrants, unique,
which was
entrants.
About 100 more than I expected us to have.
It really is. We can go ahead and say that because you're gonna see the upper limit on the random number generator that I'm going to use here. But yeah, that's how many entrants we had. Now, obviously, with us only giving out 3 X1S remotes, not everybody who entered is going to be able to win. So Sofabaton didn't want to leave everybody who showed this interest in the X1S model, didn't want to leave you hanging completely. So for all the people who don't win an X1S, or maybe even the people who do and they want a second one or a third one or something like that, our affiliate link for the Sofabaton X1S model specifically, we're going to have that in our show notes, and it is still active. And Sofabaton has extended their 35% off discount code with us, apparently exclusively at the moment.
That's
apparently,
what they said.
Yeah,
that's what they said. They said it was exclusive to just us.
We have no
Everybody
way of
else's
this.
35% is getting shut off. Ours will continue on for
end of the month is supposedly what it's going to be till the end of May.
So another 15 days or so. Yeah.
Yes. So just to let you know verbally, this is going to be in our show notes so you can read it. But our promo code is Tom X1S 35.
Why is it me?
Why
would it be me?
Tom for Tom Andrew, X1S for the X1S, and 35 for the 35% discount. You need to click on our affiliate link that is in our show notes in order for that discount code to be functional, because it's a specific link where that code is going to work. So go to our show notes. If you're on YouTube, go into the description. If you're visiting our website, avrant.com, go to the show notes for this episode. This is what, 999.9E. And so you can click on that affiliate link, and then it's going to be at Amazon. And so when you're entering the payment information, there's the option to add a promo code. You type in Tom X1S35 there, and you get 35% off. That brings the price to $117 before taxes and shipping, if you have to pay any of that where you are. So that is a pretty darn good deal.
Is it Amazon link, or is it the link to their website?
Actually, both are available, but you never affiliatized their website link thingy, so we can take care of that and add that in there too.
Affiliatize that, so that's why I didn't do it.
All right. Well, in that case, yes, you can go directly again through the link that we provide, because it is a specific link. So you can do it either directly through Sofabaton's website, where we're just deciding that now, as you heard, or through Amazon.com. We'll have both of those links in our show notes in the description on YouTube. Tom X1S35 is the promo code to enter during checkout in the payment section, and you can bring the price of an X1S down to $117 prior to shipping and taxes if they apply to you. So yes, that's going to be a way, if you've shown this interest in the X1S and you want to get it at a lower price, not all the way to free, unless you're one of the 3 winners that's coming up momentarily. All right.
Are we going to do that now, or are we going to do our? What are we doing? Let's just do it now.
Let's just do it now. Why not? Why not?
That way
so
people
okay,
don't have to wait.
let's bring up. I'm just using calculator.net. Seems pretty neutral to me. I'm just going to use their integer random number generator. And what do you want to do? Do you want to do multiple clicks before we settle on one, just to make it even more random? Is that
sure? Hold on
right.
a second. I'm going to go to random.org.
Okay. So you're going to generate a random number of clicks.
I'm going to generate a random number between 1 and.
Well, let's just do 10. Let's just do 1 and 10. I don't want to keep clicking forever.
I don't. You don't want to have to click forever. And this one is 10. So click 10 times.
Okay. Let me bring this number here. See, so on the 10th click, that'll be the number of the first winner of a Sofabaton X1S that we're giving away here. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 7. Okay,
geez.
7.
The only single digit integer. Now, you're not going to show everybody's names on here, right?
I am not going to show everybody's names, and I don't think I'm going to say full last names.
No, just first name.
So Michael A. Michael A. is our first winner. That's the first.
By now, you will have
Sofabaton
gotten an
X1S.
email, by the way. We were going to email you. You will get an email.
We're going to be sending an A. So yeah, definitely. I think we had other Michaels. It is possible there is another Michael A. But this was the 7th entrance. So whoever you are, you know that you entered quite early. This was definitely during the first week that we announced entrance. So Michael A. And yes, you will be getting an email from us congratulating you as a winner. If you are someone else named Michael with the last initial A and you don't get an email from us, I'm sorry, it's not you.
Go ahead and check your spam.
It is the Michael
check your spam
A.
just in case.
Who was the seventh person to email us during that first week? Okay,
so just click it one more time and we'll get the next one. We won't do like another 10. Or
okay, we won't do another. Okay, so one more click here coming up for our second winner, and click. It is number 30. Number 30. Let me get on our list here. And number 30 is, so the first name is Joe, and then it's like hyphenated last name, so D. Joe D.
And if your name doesn't have a hyphen in it, it's not you.
That's right. Well,
probably still first week. Right,
it's
30.
A two-name last name. That's what I'll say. It's not actually hyphenated. Sorry, what did you just ask? I didn't hear.
I said it's probably still the first week, not 30.
I mean, pretty early on, the 30th entry. But yes, Joe D. But there's two last names that go together. You are the second winner. Congratulations, and we will be emailing you. All right, so we got one more. Wanted just to win one more click. Is that what we're doing? One more click. Here we go, and click. 61 is what came up here, and let's scroll down here, and that is Micah N, not Michael. Micah N. You are the third winner. I don't believe we had other Micahs, and if we did, they weren't the last name N, so I think that person knows who they are. Micah N, you are the third winner, and congratulations. Hooray.
We will be sending your information, or will we reach out to you to get your shipping information? We'll send that to Sofabaton. The Sofabaton will send you your remote. All right?
That is the idea.
We would love to hear from you that you got it, and if you have any opinions of the remote, we would also like to hear that. But you're not obligated to do any of those things. That would just be nice. So if you feel like it, please do.
Indeed.
So yes.
All right. There we
That's
go.
it.
Well, congratulations to our three
winners.
winners.
That's our podcast for this week. We will
pretty much.
No one. It was 115 minus 3. 112 people just stopped listening.
It could be. Yes, they might be very angry, but I showed if you need proof that it was a random draw on YouTube, I showed the random number generator as it was happening there, and we randomized it as much as we know how to do, and there was no purchase necessary or anything like that. So this is absolutely just a straight ahead giveaway. And once again, I'll just repeat it because I said that I would. If you are not one of the winners, but you still want to get a Sofabaton X1S, but at a lower price, we're going to have affiliate links in our show notes, in our description on YouTube. You do need to click that link, and then during checkout, you enter the promo code TOM X1S 35. You get 35% off, and that brings the price to $117, which is a pretty darn good deal on a universal hub-based remote, the X1S. There we go.
Yeah, it's very good. Very good. Yes. Almost as good as free, but not quite. Yes. All right, so let's get to our updates.
Yeah.
a little update for me. So we were recording a day late because I had a presentation to do yesterday and out of town, and I wasn't able to be here. I also have a presentation next week.
Okay.
And I also have a dentist appointment on Wednesday. So you're going to have to find it.
All right.
Somebody
Tom
else to do
is
this
away
next week.
next week. Well,
I
at
will
least
be
you were
away
here for the
next week.
draw, so that's good.
I was
That's
here
good.
for the draw. I'm excited about that. I got excited. I got to be part of that. It was very exciting for me. So, yes. Other than that, my wife is out of town for a little bit more than a week.
Okay.
So,
wasn't she away last week already?
It was, I think, a week before that. But yes, maybe it was last week. I don't know. She was away at a work conference. This is a personal thing that she's doing. She's doing a family get together thing. I would have gone. I wasn't not invited, but we have a 16-year-old son who doesn't drive and 2 older sons who are probably technically responsible enough to make sure my son gets to school and does all the things he's supposed to do, but we don't really trust him all that much.
You would hope being college age that they would be responsible enough. I'm
sure they could, but yes, there's a big difference between they could and it's fair to ask them to do so. My eldest son is actually right now on a job interview. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He just got a job offer for he's still in college. It's like an internship for the summer. He got an offer on Monday. He's got another interview today, and he'll have to make some decisions. So he's very busy going through his own stuff. And my middle son, who is obviously younger, he is doing his own thing right now, and he is not home.
That's how we'll word it.
Have we talked about him? Have we talked about what he's doing for the summer on this podcast?
Not what he's doing for the summer. No,
I don't think we have. And I mean, I'm just going to share this with you guys because it's there's going to be somebody out there who is absolutely going to lose their mind over this and think I am a terrible father for not squashing it. But he came home. So he came home from college, and he has been honestly trying to find an internship all towards that end of the year and stuff like that. He's called a lot of people that my wife has recommended. He's got a lot of good advice. He's worked with my cousin who works for Apple and beefing up his resume and trying to get an internship through Apple. And, I think a startup that was like out in, it was either San Jose or like Tucson or something like that. Houston, maybe. I don't remember. It might have been Austin, Texas.
Pretty far away from Florida, regardless.
Regardless, he talked with them about maybe having an internship with them. I mean, he honestly tried to get an internship, and nothing really panned out. And then we were like, oh, so you're going to go back to your old job. He's been a lifeguard for the city for the last 2 or 3 summers. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't pay that much. And I don't want to sit out in the sun and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, what are you going to do? He goes, well, I did the math and I'm making $32 an hour playing poker.
All right.
Like, my wife's whole head exploded, like immediately exploded. And she's like, I'm like, wait a second, let's hear him out. So him and his 2, I'm going to call them, affectionately call them gambling degenerate friends, are going in together somehow. I don't know exactly how this works. So the gist is they share all the winnings, they share all the losses, and they all go play poker together, and they're working,
Are they actually doing it live or
they're doing it live?
Yes. I would have assumed
all
online,
live games.
They're
not online. They're doing this all live. So there's there's a casino nearby, the Hard Rock Casino in Tampa, and then there's a couple of poker rooms around here that are, I guess, pretty good. He has very strong opinions about these things. I have no idea what he's talking about. And then there's one up in Jacksonville that apparently they go to quite often from Tallahassee, which seems like a drive that they go to as well. So he is currently in Jacksonville with his friends at an Airbnb, cutting into their the money that they're making, I guess, and doing Jacksonville things. So I just told him, listen, don't answer your mom's questions about how much you made or lost, because no matter what he says, she's shocked. She's
It
like,
also fluctuates.
It also fluctuates heavily.
There are ups and downs of days. Are they just sitting at sit and goes or
it is. Yeah, it's
tournamenting
not.
or
It's not tournaments. It's
not
all
tournaments,
just.
okay.
It's all just cash tables.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, I've heard some pretty big numbers to the positive, and I've heard some numbers to the negative. So
it'll happen.
I'm just, so I actually saw when he got picked up by his two friends before they went to Jacksonville. I was talking to them, I'm like, so you guys how are we tracking all this? Do we know where we are? And they're like, yeah, we know where we are. I'm like, okay, so are we positive or how are we doing? Like, yeah, we're doing all right. I'm like, I don't like your vagueness. I would love you guys to start shunning numbers at me right now.
But there are no guarantees, and past results are no guarantee of future results being similar or higher or lower.
If I've learned one thing, and I don't know that I have, but if I have learned one thing about parenting, it is you cannot make the mistakes for them, and sometimes they just have to do it themselves. And my middle son is so much like me that I just know that if I superimpose it, he's still going to do it. He's still going to do it, and it's not going to change anything. So all I said very vehemently and repeatedly was, don't come to me and say I can't afford school next semester. You guys,
do not bail them out.
Yes. I mean, it doesn't make any difference, Rob.
Yeah.
It's not like we're gonna.
No, but you
decide,
can control that part of it. Right?
I think. Let me finish. It's not that I'm going to decide not to bail him out. I cannot bail him out. Yeah. Okay, we just bought a new house, and we do not have any. We don't have a big stack of cash behind the couch to pay for my son's college.
Does he have any sort of collateral of his own that he could end up risking?
He says that. Okay, so he's got lots of grants and scholarships for school. School should be very little out of pocket for him.
Yeah.
At this point, he's got the money for school, and he can't really spend it because it hasn't come to him yet. Mm-hmm. But let's put it this way: if he got into debt, he would have a big problem, and if he got himself completely bankrupt, then he's going to have a very hard school year as far as eating, and stuff and that sort of thing. So he has big plans. He's like, by the end of the summer, I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to do this. I'm like,
oh goodness.
Okay.
Ooh, that's the scary part actually is the thinking, spending the winnings that haven't happened. I mean, the thing is, if you're just sitting at cash games, if you're disciplined, then it is entirely possible to be perfectly fine. Even if you lose, if you're disciplined, you can make sure that your losses are not, egregious and damaging or anything like that. That is entirely possible to do at cash games. You can be very, very safe at a cash game, but you do have to be disciplined.
Yeah. So, I'm supportive of him. He's been playing poker now for 2 years.
Yep.
For long enough that, overall he is up. Like he tracks it all. He is not. That's why he got the $32 an hour average over the last 2 years. He has made, according to him, $32 an hour on average playing poker, and that's with bad beats and with
that is a reasonable number actually.
Yeah. So it's not like he's making crazy money, but he is exactly. It's certainly better than the current economy we find ourselves in here in the United States. So. He's got to do this himself. Like, I cannot.
Yeah.
I cannot stop him and everything else.
It can be exceedingly okay. There are many, many, many professional gamblers who are totally fine.
Yeah. And my wife, this is important for my wife more than me because to me, that's like, I'm able to divorce myself emotionally from this. My wife is unable to do that. She sees her son potentially doing something dangerous and she can't help but get protective and wanting to save him from it. Whereas I see it more from the aspect of a movie. I'm like, well, this could be a train wreck, or it could work out. We'll find out. It'll be very exciting for both of us.
I'll also say, in a way, it is actually more under your own control. Like, it is more about you as an individual and your personality and whether you can be disciplined and control your emotions and all that. Like, there's actually more under your control as a professional gambler than there are in many things that, like, you know, parents would say, oh, that sounds like a great career. And it's like, that can totally screw you over in life. Other things that you don't necessarily think. So, it's not that, pro gambling is not necessarily a bad way to go. It's just, does depend on you being disciplined.
Yeah. He is also only 20 years old. So while he can play poker, he can't technically drink. And that is, I think, a boon. Now, do they still serve him drinks? I don't know. They might. But if he's smart, he's not drinking. And he is smart. Yeah. So we will see how this all plays out by the end of the summer. I'll report back. But that is what he's doing right now. So that's the big drama in my life. My son decided to play. I mean, this guy my wife works with, she's like, or maybe friends with, I don't remember. But he was like, I went to a dental school with this guy, and he played poker and put himself through dental school. And he got his dental license and never practiced dentistry. He still plays poker. That's what he does. That's his job. And he's a full-time poker
for every
player.
One of those stories, there's
thousands of people who went absolutely broke.
1,000 or so for every success story.
Or even more. Well, I told my son, listen, every pro gambler, every pro poker player has gone bankrupt. They all have. They've all lost their bankroll, every single one of them. So you need to be smarter than that, you know, or be prepared for it to happen and only gamble with money that you can lose.
a little bit insecure with it's in a partnership with others. I mean, I realize that's kind of the only way you can legitimately do it, make a real go, but that age, involves a lot of trust. But I mean, just the whole thing, like you mentioned, you know, applying at a startup, it's like, being part of a startup where you are not the founder or one of the founders, like, that can be a very risky thing. You can end up in a real dire situation.
How many people go to college and when they're going through college, their degree is super hot and everybody's getting hired for hundreds of thousands of dollars a year right out of college. And then by the time they graduate, the industry has moved on, and now they can't get a job, and they end up, you know, waiting tables or something. It's, you know, It happens. So it is what he's doing. I don't really have a choice in this matter. It is what he's doing, but it is a big thing that's going on in my life.
And it also is
right
a never like, just if they're successful this summer. I'm talking like reasonable, right? Like they end up they $30 an hour is what they averaged out to, and you're like, okay, that's fine and reasonable. But it's like that also can go either direction really quickly next year. So
that's right. All right. So what's going on with you?
Not a whole lot. Had our Canadian census come out here, and apparently I got the long form one, because boy was that detailed for me, and took an inordinately long amount of time for me to complete the census. And I know from my other family members that not everybody got a census form as detailed as the one that I received. So apparently I was one of the lucky recipients of the full long form. But yeah, there it is. And I was checking in because you know, my aunts who are living in like long-term care or assisted living, and it wasn't clear whether they're gonna get a census form, but apparently not. No other residents where they're living got individual census forms. Apparently, it's just like the building like fills it out for everybody who lives there, because it is assisted living or care home care. But that was a bit of a detail to figure all of that out, and the I'm not sure if it's coming directly from our Canadian government, or, you know, it's like a body that is under government control that sends out the census of that, but they did not provide very much time at all. They basically gave everybody a week to fill this thing out and send it back. You can do it all online, but I was kind of like, that seems like a amazingly short amount of time for this thing, with the big warning, because there's all these people in Canada who are like protesting it.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly why, but yeah, there are all these people protesting the census, and so they're like, yeah, you know, like there's legal penalties if you don't send in your census, and so that's a whole kerfuffle going on in Canada right now. But anyway, there it is. That was the interest for my week.
Very exciting.
It is.
Census is what we got going on. All right. So what did you watch? Because I didn't watch about watching anything. No, I actually haven't had time to work in the home theater, even though I should, because my wife's out of town. Instead, I've been working on getting boxes out of my house, because she's not around to fight me about it. You know, so we are closer than ever to getting things out of this house, and I'm very excited about it. So I went and picked up another metal storage rack for my garage.
Okay.
That's already been filled up with boxes because the boys all brought home a bunch of crap, and I'm like, oh no. There's even more boxes? Get it out. So that's already filled up. I might have to buy a third one from Harbor Freight. And so that's exciting. But I've been working on getting things kind of sorted around here. So hopefully by next week, well, I won't be here next week. Hopefully by 2 weeks from now, my home theater will be completely up and running. I did get I have all the parts I need now to not only do the wires and everything that I need to do, but also to run Drac or whatever it is that's on that NAD, because I needed some sort of stand for the microphone.
Yes, you do.
So I got myself a little tripod for cheap on Amazon.
That'll work.
So
that's all you really need.
What did you watch?
Yes, I watched one movie this week. I watched Send Help. So this is the latest from Sam Raimi, directed by Sam Raimi. He did not write it, though. The writers were Damian Shannon and Mark Swift. They were the writers previously on Freddy vs. Jason and on the Baywatch remake.
Are we holding this against them? Or are we saying that that's okay?
No, I mean, Baywatch was actually pretty entertaining. I thought so was Freddy vs. Jason, to be honest. But yeah, it's just it wasn't written by Sam Raimi, but he did direct it. And this is starring Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien in pretty much a two-person movie. There are some other supporting characters, but it's pretty much the two of them, the vast majority of this movie. And if you look at the sort of genre tags on any of the streaming services or whatnot, and I'll get that out of the way, I watched this on Disney Plus. It's on Disney Plus in Canada, and so I streamed it on Disney Plus. And let me see. Technical-wise, was there anything that really stood out? I don't really feel like the audio or video stood out in a good way or a bad way. It had minimal Sam Raimi flourishes to it. He definitely put in a few of his Sam Raimi touches, camera angles and camera movements, and one sort of jump scare with some character makeup that was very Sam Raimi-esque, but it was minimal. It was very, very limited. And so as I was alluding to on the genre tags for this, it's labeled as a comedy horror, which I wouldn't say is wrong, but I do not consider this a horror movie. It's got a little bit of Sam Raimi gore that's going on there, and his classic thing of, if you ever see any of the behind the scenes of Sam Raimi directing any of his movies, his favorite thing in the world is to spray some type of fluid at his stars, like he as just a person gets a kick out of it, evidently, very obviously, whenever you see any of the behind the scenes footage. So there definitely is a scene of Rachel McAdams getting absolutely splattered with some stuff, and so that is played to comedic effect in what's going on. But yeah, I really don't think I would call this a horror movie. So it is not exactly in tone like this whatsoever, but what would you call American Psycho, with Christian Bale? Like it's a satire, really.
It's like a horror satire, suspense satire.
Yes.
It has two
definitely
things going on.
So that's more like comedy certainly applies here, but it's more in that genre. I was thinking like this feels like a somewhat less serious American Psycho. That's the sort of tone that we're treading in this, which, like I say, like it's kind of hard to really call it a horror movie, even though that's really how it was marketed. And even when I was hearing reviews, I tried to avoid too many spoilers, but prior to watching this, but people were describing it as a horror movie, and I just don't feel that way at all. So this movie kind of surprised me simply for the reason that I didn't know what to expect going in, and I almost don't want to give away I guess it's fair to give away the basic premise since it's right in the description. If you look up the movie, you're not going to be able to avoid seeing the sort of description. But the reason I say it's very much a satire is that it totally goes with the cliches. So Rachel McAdams, a very, very attractive, good-looking person, but
yes,
you mess up her hair a little bit and you put her in some frumpy clothes, and apparently she is the most unattractive woman that there has ever been working at her office. Nobody sees her as an attractive woman whatsoever, simply because her hair is a little messy and she doesn't have flattering makeup on.
I'm going to be honest with you.
but it leans into that as like the movie is aware that it's ridiculous and silly, and it doesn't go all the way to like scary movie level of parody, but it's a little bit closer to that than it is to full seriousness. And then of course, so she's working in a corporate office, and you've got the nepo baby boss, and he is the absolute worst douchebag of douchebags, and it's like, you know, over the top in how cliched and everything it is, and it's all a boys club and it's all that type of thing. And so it's like, so you can kind of roll your eyes at it, but the movie is obviously aware of it and kind of poking fun at it and parodying it and satirizing it. And so then the reason it ends up being Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien kind of as a two character movie is they end up via plane crash as like on a deserted island together. That's the basic premise of what this movie is. That's why it's called Send Help. And so, you know, he's the boss, she's the you know, very capable but completely overlooked underling, and you know, it's the whole power dynamic and how do things shift once they're on this island together and stuck together for longer than they anticipated, and you know, him barking orders at the beginning, but then she's actually the much more capable one. And it very much leans into like, let's set up all of the cliches that everyone is expecting for this premise of a movie, and then let's not do the exact cliche. That is what this movie is. That's why it's a bit more of a parody, and it's almost a bit more of a parody of other movies and like, you know, other stories that have had this similar premise. Like if you have no experience with other movies where all of these cliches played out, then this movie isn't going to make as much sense. It relies upon you knowing the cliches and being familiar with this sort of premise, and then trying to subvert those expectations. That's what this movie is all about. So I did have fun with this movie, but I wasn't like completely over the moon about it. I saw some reviews that were like really, really championing it, and I didn't feel that strongly about it. I felt it was an entertaining time, but my biggest issue with it was I didn't like the character arcs. There were some character arcs. They weren't as satisfying, I guess is the word I'll use. The character arcs in here just weren't as satisfying as I was hoping for. If they were going to subvert all the expectations of every cliche of this scenario, they didn't subvert it enough. And then they also didn't just go with the cliche. So we ended up with this mushy middle character arc where I was like, well, did anybody learn anything? And then the one lesson that was very obviously learned, I was like, well, that's grim. That's a grim lesson to have learned out of all of this. And right. So I at the end of it, I was just like, I wasn't cheering, and I wasn't like going, oh, wow, that was wild and unexpected. I was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. That's where we ended up at the end of all this subversion. And so that's why I didn't feel like over the moon about it, because I was just kind of like, it left me feeling not very happy about the way everything played out. So yeah, it's an unexpected movie. If this premise sounds interesting to you, but you're like, I don't want to just see the same thing played out as I've always seen before, I'm like, yeah, I can recommend it. Like it's a let's take well-worn territory. Let's take at this point kind of archetypal characters, but let's have a little bit of fun with it. Let's not have them do exactly what we're expecting them to do. Let's set up all those scenarios. Every single one of the expected scenarios is there, but then let's try to do something a little bit different with. And that was very clearly the goal in the writing and the directing, was to do precisely that. And that means that yes, sometimes it's, manipulated or a little bit of tortured character progression or de-progression to make sure that we subvert the expectation, is that type of thing, where all along I was kind of feeling the mechanics of the movie behind the movie. But Rachel McAdams is fantastic. This movie would not have worked if you didn't have an actress of her caliber in the lead role. She makes it so that it isn't scary movie. She makes it so that it's closer to the American Psycho end of things than it is to the scary movie side of things. But this whole movie falls somewhere in between those two extremes of the parody satirical genre. So that was Send Help.
Okay. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I love it. I love that sound, but maybe.
That's maybe. Right. You might have a very different opinion than I did.
Yeah, there you go. If you do, email us at rob@avrant.com. Let him know exactly what you think of his stupid review.
You could.
This is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Come to the website, find our shows, our show notes, our links to any products or articles that we reference during the podcast, as well as a link to a Flickr album to follow along with the pictures that we'll be referencing that you send in when you ask your questions. You don't always have to send in pictures, but if you want us to be able to answer your questions, sometimes you do. Because it is a little hard to fix your room if we can't see it. You can you can find us at facebook.com/AVRant podcast, youtube.com/AVRant. That will have the video of us talking to each other. You'll be able to see the little random number generator thing that we used to do the picking of the winners a little bit ago, as well as the Flickr album, so that you don't have to the pictures. You have to go look at the pictures themselves. Contact us directly, rob@avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. I do not do socials anymore. I want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, to support the podcast in some way, one of the ways you can do that is going to avrant.com. Click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, which will send you to a PayPal donation site where you can send us some amount of money. So if you have a PayPal account, it'll go directly from your PayPal account if you'd like it to. If you don't, you can put in your credit card information, which we will never see, but PayPal will take that money from you, however much you want to send to us, and we will get most of it. They will keep a little bit for transaction charge. If you want to support us monthly, you can go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast, where you can become a monthly supporter, a minimum of $1 a month. So $12 a year will be taken from your credit card, which they will keep. And again, we don't see that. And currently we have 121 patrons at patreon.com.
Yeah, that is, once again, patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 121 patrons over there.
If you can't support us financially, do something to support us and mention it. Let us know what you did, and we'll mention it here. John recently imported a Ultra HD Blu-ray from the States. I guess he's not in the States, but anyways, it came with a digital code that only works in the U.S., so he asked me to test it for him, though it supposedly expired 7 years ago.
I was like, man, Ultra HD Blu-rays have been around that long. It doesn't even feel like it.
It doesn't feel like it.
But there you go.
I will tell you that as of 7 minutes ago, it worked. Because I was doing it while Rob was talking about this.
It worked.
So,
look at that.
When you come back to the United States,
Brothers.
you can import it. You can import it yourself. That's right. It wasn't Warner Brothers, which is killing everything for reasons.
All right.
So
well, very
John.
good. Thank you, John, for sending in that code. Amazingly, it worked.
Yeah. So we have a lot of people who thanked us for the podcast, especially those people who sent in their entries and thinking that we would somehow, maybe they were thinking that somehow it would help their chances, and it clearly did not.
No. Everyone was it seemed very genuine, everything that was sent.
So we got notes of gratitude from a lot of people. So I'm just going to go through them as quickly as possible. We got John. We have Guy, who's been listening since the Dina days. Jason, Russell, Steve, JR, Brandon, Joe, Jefferson, who has been listening since the day when we had three hosts, which was the end of my time in Australia. Yeah. Luke, Mark V, Scott, James, who says he thinks we're the most entertaining channel on YouTube that focuses on audio. Well, there's that caveat there that we need.
Oh, definitely.
His wife also tells him that if it were easier to turn all this crap on, that she'd watch more stuff in their home theater. X1S is your I am
sorry
there.
You were not one of the three names drawn, James, but we have that discount. That discount if you want to take advantage of that.
Jacob, Matthew, David, Sean, Dan, Hal, Paul, Jonathan. Jonathan says we're the only home theater podcast that he's continued to listen to over the years. Dean, Theo, Stephen, JD, Jocelyn, who can't wait for episode 1000. Yes, you can, because you're going to have to. Richard, Nelson. Nelson's a 3 times member of the 2 Hour Plus Club. Good for you, Nelson. I don't even remember what all the things are that you're supposed to say for that, but I'm sure remember if you said it. Rob J. and Chris. I'm not repeating the names, Rob, but we'll repeat them for you right now.
I will say the names one more time so they came from my lips, and it's a whole long list. So we got John, Guy, Jason, Russell, Steve, JR, Brandon, Joe, Jefferson, Luke, Mark V, Scott, James, Jacob, Matthew, David, Sean, Dan, Hal, Paul, Jonathan, Dean, Theo, Stephen, JD, Jocelyn, Richard, Nelson, Rob J, and Chris. I did it all in one breath. Thank you all so much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We very much appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
In the news, we can't say it's a surprise, but Nintendo has announced it will be increasing the price of its Switch 2 console. In Japan, the price increase goes into effect on May 25th. which is pretty soon,
It
going
sure
up
is.
from 10,000 yen to almost 60,000 yen. That's, depending on who's doing your math, 1,000,000% increase.
It's about 600 Canadian dollars is what that it comes out to. Be
From
right
what?
around.
So 600 from around 100?
No. It
going
went
up 10,000 yen.
It used to be 50,000.
So it was 50.
Yes.
I misread that, and I was the
did.
one who was reading it. So it went from 50,000 yen up 10,000 yen to 60,000 yen. Got it.
That's right.
Okay. So it's not that bad. It's still up $100 though, right? Is that about $100?
Yeah, it's basically going up about 100 Canadian dollars is what that equivalent. So around 75 US dollars is more or less what the price increase is there. Yeah.
So the U.S., Canada, and Europe get a bit of extra time to prepare. Price increases will take effect on September 1st. The U.S. price goes from $450 to $500. Canadian prices go from $630 to $680, and the European price goes from €470 to €500. That doesn't seem very much. What's up with that? That doesn't seem that bad. Anyways, euro, I guess, maybe is.
I mean, they just went for round numbers, apparently, is what they were going for there. But so we saw the price increases that happened to the Xbox consoles and then the PlayStation 5 consoles, and that was some big price increases on those PlayStation 5 consoles when they did that. Now, Xbox increased their prices twice within 1 year, and Sony waited for a little over a year before doing their price increase. So theirs went all at once, but basically was equivalent to the two price increases stacked on top of each other of what Xbox did. So just in dollar amounts, these price increases from Nintendo are not as egregious, and they've clearly just gone for these round numbers, and so it's not exactly a percentage that they've gone for each time, but nevertheless, we are seeing that since launch, which was basically a year ago for the Nintendo Switch 2, we're seeing a price increase on a home video game console. This is apparently the new norm. It was never the norm before this generation of consoles, but that is what is taking place. So yes, if you're in North America, if you're in Europe, you've got until September, so they're giving you some time to still get the console on its own at the $450 US price if you want to.
There you go. Yeah. So we have a little bit more Nintendo news. The launch bundle that came with Mario Kart World for $500 is no longer available. The recent $500 bundle that came with Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 is also discontinued. But starting in June, Nintendo will be offering a new $500 bundle that lets you choose whether you want to download Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, or Pokemon Pokopia. Pokopia?
Yeah, Pokopia.
Yeah. This bundle will be... So the other ones came with a with a cartridge?
No, it was a download code.
It was always a download. Okay,
Yeah, it was
so there's no
always a
difference there. Okay,
With
it's just a different
Super
game.
Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, you had the option of taking either the physical version or the download code. You just kind of grabbed the items off the shelf and they would bundle it together and give you $30 off, because normally it would have cost $530 to put all of that together, and they give you $30 off to bring the price to $500 for the combined bundle. But yes, now they're going to give you a choice starting in June, 3 different games. The best deal is if you get Mario Kart World, because that one costs $10 more than Donkey Kong Bonanza or Pokemon Pokopia.
So this bundle will be available to purchase prior to the price increase in September, when $500 will only get you the system on its own and no packing game. So there you go.
I mean, it does seem to me that Nintendo kind of has the option of keeping the price at $500 and bundling in a game anytime they want to, because it's all owned by them, so they don't necessarily have to make the bundle price higher. But that's unexpected. Everyone is expecting that there will be future bundles. It's probably still with Mario Kart World or with Donkey Kong Bonanza. Those are very likely to be bundled in games, but it'll probably be $550 in the future, but they haven't announced anything as such just yet. Yes.
All right. JL Audio, they've announced their new Primacy series of luxury speakers. Let's not pull any punches. They are very expensive.
They are very expensive. These are luxury speakers. They apply to almost no one listening to this podcast, I would think. But nevertheless, this was the speaker news this week, so we might as well cover it too.
Yeah. They say it's been a decades-long project, and they've invested millions in their new equipment to manufacture everything in-house. There are 2 speaker models, the Primacy T6 Active Tower and the Primacy S3 Active Bookshelf. The prices are, get ready for this, $90,000 a pair and $35,000 a pair, respectively.
I said they were expensive and they are luxury speakers.
I'm going to be honest with you. They don't look like $90,000 speakers.
Well, that's that. There's a little bit more coming up about the aesthetics, but that was pretty much everybody's first reaction. They're like, when they were unveiled, the cover was taken off of them. A lot of people were like, "That's it."
That's what you get for 90 grand.
Mildly curved, but so some black rectangles, more or less. That's what these speakers are to begin with. Anyway, to begin with.
All right. As the active in their name suggests, the Primacy speakers are fully self-powered and have a 32-bit 192 kilohertz DSP-controlled crossovers built in. If you buy a pair of Primacy speakers on their own, you can connect them via XLR or RCA and power them on via a 12-volt trigger. But this isn't really the way JL Audio envisions you use the Primacy speakers. They also announced their Primacy centerpiece preamp with its Wi-Fi connected tabletop controller, and those sell for $15,000.
Yes, they do.
Wow. Yeah. The preamp? Okay.
The preamp and its tabletop controller, very important. Those together are Wi-Fi connected, and they are $15,000. There's no amplifiers in these. It's a preamp.
It's so small.
Stereo preamp.
The little preamp is so small.
And it's also a streaming device, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. For some reason, all of the audio journalists and influencers who were invited to the event went gaga over the tabletop controller's volume knob. But Rob couldn't help but notice how easily its limited number of touch-sensitive buttons attracted fingerprints. Guess you're not supposed to actually touch it. The centerpiece provides access to all major music streaming services and has a dedicated phono input for both moving magnet and moving coil support. It connects to the Primacy speakers via Ethernet cables using the Dante protocol. Which means you do have to sacrifice a little bit of blood to it every time you want it to work.
But this does mean it is a fully digital connection. So that phono input or the RCA input that is available, those get digitized. There is an analog to digital converter inside. I do like that it has an HDMI eARC port, so you can use this thing connected to a television setup as well. But yeah, it is completely digital from the preamp, this centerpiece preamp, out to the speakers, because the speakers are self-powered. They have their amplifiers built in, but it is all kept in the digital domain, going from this preamplifier to those speakers.
I'm just looking at the pictures in the article. The most interesting feature of the centerpiece preamp is JL Audio's own Primacy Automatic Room Correction, or PARO. Going to come up with a good acronym for that. It only utilizes a single measurement position with their own specialized microphone connection, but from the description, it works in a similar fashion to JBL's synthesis, where it repeatedly measures the speakers and optional subwoofers and basically brute force iterates on the EQ filters, phase control, and trim level settings until it matches its target curves. You can tailor the target curve to your liking via an app, and you can store and recall 10 profiles, which, I mean, for $15,000, I better be able to.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'd think. But
so the speakers themselves.
That was the description, as I understood it, of how PARO works. They did mention it's a single measurement position. So, I mean, yeah. Who else besides a single listener is interested in this level of speakers anyway? So that's perfectly fine. But
you didn't spend this amount of money on speakers to share it. But these are only, so it's either bookshelves or towers, and then that's it. There's nothing else. There's no surround. This is just
those are
two
the choices.
channels.
It is 2-channel.
I mean, these speakers don't look that much different from a Polk speaker. I'm sorry, they just don't.
Wait till
it's
you
not
hear
my
what
fault.
Wait till you hear what the size of the drivers are. It's surprising.
So the speakers themselves, the S3 bookshelf is a two-way design using a 1-inch carbon fiber tweeter. It's a little unusual. And a 5.5-inch polypropylene woofer. They cross over at 3 kilohertz by default. But being a fully active speaker with a tweeter and woofer, each having their own separate 200-watt Class D amplifier. How are you putting Class D in this thing? Anyways, every part of the response of each driver can be adjusted independently. The single woofer is expected to play as low as 36 hertz. That's at minus 6 dB anechoically. And since the cabinets are made from cast aluminum, each S3 weighs 82 pounds.
Yes,
my lord.
So here's where some of the differences coming in here. But yeah, I was surprised that it's a 5.5-inch woofer. It's polypropylene. That's plastic, folks. It's a plastic driver. Now, there's nothing wrong with using plastic drivers. I don't know if it was the woven polypropylene, like what C's does, which can be very precise in the damping and the exact balance of the driver. It could be something like that. It doesn't appear to be a woven driver, though.
No.
Doesn't have that look to it. So
that's a big old magnet in it. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you can see that.
Yeah, and I mean, it is JL Audio. So as we know from their subwoofers, the type of drivers that they design are very long throws. So they go for a very large excursion instead of a large surface area. That's how they get the displacement of air, which is a perfectly reasonable way to do it. But yeah, none of this is screaming like from this S3. And as someone pointed out on the soundstage access, like, why isn't it the S2? Because the T6, as we'll see coming up, has 6 drivers. So you're like, it's a tower with 6 drivers, a T6. This is a stand mount speaker, so there's the S, right? Instead of B for bookshelf, it's S for stand mount, but it only has 2 drivers. So why isn't it the S2 instead of why is it the S3? And no one had an answer for that.
Does it have a port? Maybe
it does have a port. It is ported. Yeah.
I'm sure the tower is also ported, though.
It is.
So that does make sense. Yes, Anyways. All right, let me click back. The T6 tower is a 3-way design. The tweeter and mid-range driver are the same as in the S3 bookshelf, but then it adds 4 5.5-inch aluminum base woofers that all share a 600-watt Class D amp on their own. So each T6 tower has a total of 1,000 watts of amplification built in. Again, the cabinet is made entirely of cast aluminum, so each T6 tower weighs 272 pounds. I can't tell you how much I hate that.
There you go.
That being said, those they're not even really rubber. I don't know what those things that you put that we suggest sometimes for subwoofer damping would work here because they are made for industrial industrial
like the sorbothane feet.
Yeah. They're made for industrial like washers and stuff like that. They are usually stacked on top of each other. So it's like it is made to take this amount of weight. So you could damp these things. But
good luck playing with the toe in. 272 pounds each.
You would, okay, just put it on like a Lazy Susan, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to do with these things. That's crazy. The Primacy speaker cabinets have been designed to be easily serviceable and customizable. The front grille, top, sides can all pop off since they're held in place with magnets. And inside the top, there's a lever that releases the entire front baffle so you can access all of the innards rather easily. Okay, all of the amplification and processing is built into the slender?
It should be slender.
Should be slender.
I'm sorry.
Slender spine that takes up the entire back of the speaker, and then the sides can be customized with a choice of wood grain finishes or solid colors, or you can have the side panels painted to any custom color that you want. If you can afford them, you can order them now. So, yeah.
So that's how you make the looks other than just plain black. By default, it's piano black finish. That's the default, but they've got these replaceable side panels that you can have. They have a selection of wood grains and other colors, and then you can customize the color to your heart's content if you want to.
Why do we not have a picture of it without any panels on it? That's
I never had that image. I was mostly borrowing, as you could see from the watermark from Audio Advice. They did a good teardown video, so you can at least see the top and the front baffle all removed there. I do kind of like how easy it is to access the innards of this speaker. I kind of dig that.
I'm not saying that it's not possible, but it just screams to me like something can become loose at some point and start rattling in there, and then now you have to deal with that. For 90 grand or 35 grand or however much, it certainly shouldn't be the case. 90 grand for the
pair of towers, yeah.
Yeah, certainly shouldn't be the case. But there you go.
Yep.
There you go.
They are not on my shopping list, even if I could afford them. Not really the type of thing that I go for, but there you go. JL Audio, getting into the luxury speaker end of things. These cost more than their Gotham subs. That's crazy.
I don't honestly understand. Okay, so let me just let's just think about who this is for. Obviously, it's for a JL Audio fan.
Sure.
And some people are. They're very brand loyal. So if they came up and they were young and they put JL subs in their cars, then they get into a home theater or whatever, and they put JL subs in their house, and now they're maturing and they want to have a rockin' 2-channel system, then maybe that's the person that looks at this. But I'm looking at it from the perspective, like you kind of hinted at, of the consumer market that would spend $90,000 on a pair of speakers. Do they want it to all be digital the entire way? Do they want?
They had to spend a lot of time in the press release thing with all the journalists and influencers, like trying to explain why audiophiles should want this approach. Yeah. That was the majority of the presentation.
In it.
That's right.
All digital all the way through. That's streaming services. A phono input which immediately gets digitized instead of staying in completely analog all the way through.
Yeah.
And room correction. Not that I'm against room correction. I'm not. But this is not the market. I'm not the market for this product. So the people who are they like, what I've always really wanted is room correction for my 2-channel system. Like, no, that's not what they say.
I'll be honest, this is pure speculation on my part, but they talked about how this was kind of like JL Audio. I don't know if he's the founder, but head of JL Audio anyway. This was kind of his pet project. It's been over a decade that they've been developing. To me, this feels, and I stress feels because I have no actual hard evidence to say that this would is, but it feels like a pet project, engineering project that, they had all these ideas. Wouldn't it be kind of cool if you had a speaker that was this serviceable? Wouldn't it be awesome if it was cast aluminum, cabinets and completely inert that way, and we can get down to the micrometer in tolerances and all that type of stuff in the manufacturing. They bought these several $1 million machines to be able to create their own cabinets for this and all this type. And it feels like engineering things that stacked on top of each other. They wound up with a cost for this speaker, and they're like, oh, whoops. This isn't fitting into where the JL Audio subwoofers, which they're expensive, but they're achievable, right? You could save up and get a JL Audio subwoofer. They're not that over crazy priced. They're not. I wouldn't even say the JL Audio is fully into the luxury price category. It's the really high end enthusiast category. But that's
why
where
are there
these
four
speakers go into
outputs on these things.
The speakers go into a new price category there. It feels to me like they ended up with a bill of goods, a cost of these, where they're like, oh, well, now if we're going to make a go of it, we just have to target the luxury market because we can't really get enough margin going for the high dollar enthusiast market. We could probably price them there, but the margin wouldn't be high enough that it makes sense, and they're not going to sell in high enough volume either way. So I feel like this is a project that maybe got a little bit away from them. That's where I end up feeling.
So I'm looking at a picture on Audio Science Review, their forums about on the back of this thing. So there's 4 speaker outputs, which I don't quite understand since it's a 2-channel system.
On the back of the centerpiece, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little weird. The HDMI port is upside down.
It is.
Which is, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm not saying that it won't work as well. It's just weird to have it upside down. You know what I mean? And it's just strange. And like you said,
having the ground screw for the phono input down and potentially laying across the analog inputs.
There's a lot going. So when somebody says that this has been development for 30 years, okay.
Well, no, it wasn't.
I know, but I'm just saying in general. And when you hear somebody say something like that, a lot of times what they mean is someone once mentioned it, and we decided to do this a year or two ago, but we've been kind of throwing around the idea for this amount of time and that sort of thing. So I don't know. Maybe it's whatever. Does this thing have a light at the top? Because these pictures.
Yes, the speakers have a light at the top of them. Yeah,
well, no audiophile wants that. I will tell you that.
The light. Now. Well, you can turn it off, but the light also changes color, and you can program it so that the light changes color along with your profile, your 10 saved profiles. So you can know at a glance which profile you're in by having the color coordinate with the profile.
That's kind of nice. I don't hate that. I don't hate that. So, for some reason, when I put in JL Audio Primacy, the first thing I get is from Garmin for some reason.
Well, that's
Does
who owns
Garmin,
JL Audio now.
Is that who
Garmin
owns them? Okay.
Yeah, they own
Well, that makes more sense. But that's dumb. Anyways, so, buy them and let us know how they sound.
Sure.
Comments from our listeners. Infinite Gary says, well, I guess he doesn't say this, but if Rob enjoys a running gag, then so does he. This week's Panasonic basement find was a Panasonic model KP100 auto stop pencil sharpener. I guess when you get it sharp, it just stops.
That's apparently it, yeah.
Not a surprise since he knew he had that sharpener stashed away somewhere, but he was pleased to rediscover the 12 Ebhard Faber Ebony Extra Smooth artist pencils that were stored along with it. He sharpened one up, and it's a pleasure to use. Okay. All right. This is getting out of control, this whole Panasonic thing. All right. You got next week.
Calling it, Gary.
You got next week to get it out of your system when I'm not around, and after that, I'm calling it.
All
okay.
Right.
I don't need any more things creeping me out from his basement. Joe Klusnick recently completed. Klusnick. Why do I keep doing that? Every time. Joe,
it's a running gag at this point.
At this point, I wish I was doing it on purpose, but I am just so bad with names. Joe Klusnick recently completed the installation and calibration of another theater project in an assisted living residence, so he thought he'd share the photos and details. This is the most theater carpet that has ever been made.
Okay.
This carpet
You'll discover where that came from in the text below.
I don't know where that is. Crazy work. So if you're not on the YouTube channel, then go open the Flickr album and you'll see this. Right, it'll be right underneath the Panasonic pencil sharpener. There happened to be a tour group going through the brand new building while Joe was there calibrating the theater system. Everybody who stopped by said it was a highlight. He's quite proud of the level of performance that was achieved, even though the budget for the project was kept quite modest. The carpet, Irwin seats, and paint color, my lord. Paint color on the walls were all taken care of by the interior designer for the building, so Joe didn't have any say over those. They said home theater, and this person said bet, as the kids say these days. That is crazy work. This carpet is insane.
You can't say it's not movie themed, though.
You can't say it's not movie themed, and thank God the lights will be off in here when it's on because I'm dizzy just looking at it. But
those
that
seats
is
look
great.
nice, though. I like those seats.
The whole thing looks. It looks really good. Honestly, the whole thing looks very good.
It's very inviting as a theater.
The clients also didn't want to see any speaker subs or equipment, so in-wall speakers were used, and the 4 subwoofers and all the gear were hidden behind mesh fabric doors and recessed cabinets. Which, hey, we talk about what is sonically the best all the time, but many times we must acquiesce to the demands of the client or the person who is there.
Ultimately, they're the ones who need to be happy with it.
Yeah. If you're not going to, you can't sit there and argue with them in your own home. You can't sit there and argue and say, "Yes, I would." The speakers would sound better if they're freestanding. It'd be easier to do stuff with, to tow in and everything else, and the subs would be better if I could move their placement around. Blah blah blah. In the end, the design of the room is such that you have to have everything in wall. It's just what it is. It's fine. So for everyone to know exactly what was installed, here's a list. Epson 4010 projector, Silvertech 120-inch acoustically transparent screen, 12 GIC Acoustics Impression Series combo panels, which look great, by the way.
Don't they, though?
And are so much easier to place in these places because people think they're adornments and not sonic devices. They're not just big black squares.
A mention of that coming up.
Mm-hmm. A short middle Atlantic rack with AC and infinity cooling fans and a CyberPower CP1500 battery backup UPS. A Denon X3800H, a Panasonic UB420 Ultra HD Blu-ray player, an Apple TV 4K, and everything controlled with a Harmony Ultimate Hub base remote. Where did you get that?
Yeah, still got some.
Look at the Klipsch Pro 25 RQ in-wall speakers, which is great because it's a big room and you need a lot of output. 4 SVS SB1000 Pro subs. Ooh, those poor subwoofers are struggling.
They did not want gigantic subs, and the one that's hidden inside the little cabinets, they got to snug into those little cubbies. So the SB1000s do that. But hey, 4 of them means that it's not going to be bad. It's not going to be bad bass in here once you get
they're going to have
good
bass. It's just for those
That's right.
Purists are going to be like,
am
I hitting 20 hertz at reference volume? Probably not, but who cares? This is not what's going to happen here. He can confirm those GIC Compression Series panels are a hit. Clients instantly agree to them for their looks. And then we all know they're getting the benefits of acoustic treatments, but he doesn't have to convince them. That's a huge win. And for anyone wondering why he opted for the Epson 4010, and given that there are newer projector models from other brands in the same sort of price range now, the budget was such that buying directly from Epson's own refurbished store came in clutch. And Epson still offers their excellent warranty coverage and next day replacement if you buy their products that way. It's also still the least expensive projector out there to offer fully motorized lens adjustments, and that was an important feature in this installation. UST, or ultra short throw, which, because I can't talk today, installation wasn't an option, as ease of movement without any tripping or bumping hazards at the front of the room was a top priority. This is a retirement community,
it's assisted
right?
living. Assisted
living. Okay.
Yes.
So yes, you can't have things on the floor.
Indeed.
So the Epson 4010 was the right choice for the job, and he's glad it's still available to purchase. This place looks amazing.
It
Honestly,
sure does.
It really looks good. What is in that back corner, though? Or the front corner? Front corner. Is that a subwoofer?
There's one. There are subs. You can see one in the front right corner, and then you can see one in the rear right corner. So those ones weren't completely hidden.
Those were not hidden, and the other ones were. So that's the only thing that's out, which is, I think, fine.
Yeah. And they're little.
Great. This looks like a drop ceiling too in here.
does,
So he has the option of getting up there if he ever has to do anything. Plus, those are probably acoustic panels up there, a little bit more absorption.
And they didn't
great.
put in Atmos speakers, but it's an X3800H, so with 7 speakers that are installed in the walls, if they want to virtualize Dolby Atmos, and honestly, have it sound pretty darn good, that is an option too.
Yeah, good job.
Very good job.
Greg, our questions, we're getting into them. Greg, a while back we commented on the podcast about modifying speakers with aftermarket kits, and we said how every speaker design is a combination of compromises and trade-offs, so it's certainly possible to change a speaker's performance with third-party mods. But if you target one particular metric, you're bound to impact something else in the process. Well, now that that's all in the open and posted online, Greg figures that's fine to name names. Okay. I don't know what's happening here.
Well, we kept it vague which speaker, which companies, which people were talking about when these questions about aftermarket kits came up. And he's like, well, it's all being
was I
very
part of this? I don't feel like I was part of this, but I would agree with
it's all being talked very openly on YouTube, on the forums and everything. So he's like, let's just say the actual people involved, because there's no mystery about it whatsoever anymore.
Right. So the original question was prompted when Danny Ritchie over at GR Research posted the measurements he had taken himself of a pair of Ascend Acoustics Sierra 2 EX speakers, version 1, not version 2. And he said that while the internal crossover components were not bad for an inexpensive speaker, which, by the way, that's not an inexpensive speaker,
Not really.
there was definitely room for improvements, and he was selling that kit for around $500 to that end. $500 to improve the crossover. You have lost your mind.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. The reams of paper I would have to read for you to convince me of it, because that's how audiophiles convince you to do things. They make you read a bunch of crap. Well, those claims were brought to David Fabricant's attention over Ascend, and the first thing he did was point out that Danny's measurements did not line up with David's own Klippel measurements. Furthermore, David bought the upgrade kit himself, and that man is petty, and I am here for it.
No, I don't know if petty's the right word. I mean, he is, if someone makes a claim based on measurements and he's like, that doesn't line up with me, he's like, well, I'll buy whatever they're using and I will find out for sure.
Okay, you can describe it in whatever terms you use, and he may not be feeling petty, but it feels petty to me, and I love it. If somebody says that your stuff is not right, like when somebody tells me I'm not right, I'm like, excuse you, let's talk about this. Let's go deeper. And yes, David, go. Okay, so anyways, David bought the upgrade kit himself and confirmed that it literally could only work with the first version of the Sierra 2 EX, not the second, and not just because of the crossover's electrical design, but because it physically could not fit into the V2 model because of a change to the design of the port inside the cabinet. So David and Danny were in conversation, and Danny wound up updating the crossover kit he was selling. But even after that, David was saying that Danny's modification only made the speaker worse and not better in any way.
Yep.
All right, and then it got worse. So then then Amir over at AV Science got into it. He did his own measurements using his own Klippel system. Everybody's showing off their Klippel systems like it's some sort of measuring contest of both the Ascend version of the Sierra 2 EX and the GR research modified version, and he posted his findings, including he posted it on YouTube. Amir concluded that the mod made the speaker worse. Yes, and it seemed that one of the primary goals was to reduce the impedance of this tweeter, supposedly to make the speaker easier to drive for tubed-based amplifiers. Oh, man. Are you trying to tell me that audiophiles made the speaker worse, sound worse, just so that they can use their stupid gear with it? I've never said those words out loud before. But the mod ended up lowering the impedance of the speaker overall, which made it a more difficult load for any amplifier. The modded crossover also lowered the crossover point between the woofer and the tweeter, and that led to wildly higher distortion right at the crossover point. And then Danny's measurements also led him to believe that there was a high frequency roll-off, so the mod boosted the highest frequency, but according to both David and Amir's, Danny and David's names are too close together. Amir's measurements, that didn't line up with the treble response that either of them was measuring, and with the mod in place, the boosted treble worsened the off-axis frequency response and led to a more room-dependent dispersion due to the in-room response becoming more uneven. All of this is to say, Amir agreed with David from Ascend and did not think that Danny's modifications were justified in any way whatsoever. He agreed that the Sierra 2 EX V2 is not perfect, no speaker is, but the mod only made things worse, not better, and considering it would cost the end user $500 extra, what would be the point of that? So, Greg found Amir's explanation and Klippel measurements very interesting. Greg is if you forgot who Greg is, right. He's the one who sent this in.
Yes.
But he was left with a question. Both David and Amir's measurements still indicated somewhat high distortion coming from the raw women tweeter right around 2.4 kilohertz. And compared to the Titan Dome tweeter that Ascend also uses in other models, it's noticeably higher distortion, although nowhere near as bad as the distortion that was measured using the GR research mod, because why not? So could we explain a bit further why even the Ascend Acoustics design resulted in a somewhat higher distortion from the tweeter? As Amir pointed out, the speaker overall is not designed for large rooms and higher outputs, so as long as you don't push it too hard, the original design should not be a problem. But isn't this the point of using a ribbon tweeter to lower distortion and pulse the response? Basically, what's up with the Sierra 2 EX V2 tweeter and crossover design? Wow.
So the image that I've been showing here, that was just a screen grab from Amir's YouTube audio science research YouTube video. So on the left of that in the main graph that's shown there, that's the Sierra 2 EX V2 as stock, and this is a harmonic distortion measurement that's showing there. So he's like, yeah, around 2.4 kilohertz there. It's like 1.7% distortion, and this is not being driven to maximum. This is sort of, like fairly typical playback levels. I think it says in there somewhere, 86 dB. So not crazy high levels. So I mean, like over 1% harmonic distortion in a tweeter is like, it could be audible. Like that's a little bit higher than we would sort of expect. We see how very, very low the distortion is everywhere else, and that's sort of what we would expect. You see the modded version on the right, and it's like, oh, now we're getting up
6%.
to 6% distortion at a higher frequency. But yeah, he's like that didn't make it better, at least not that particular metric. Definitely didn't get better. But putting all of that aside, it's like, okay, let's just go to the original design. Why are we seeing this sort of higher dispersion at what would be the low end of this tweeter? And that really is sort of the key. That's the explanation to all of this. David Fabricant has discussed at length on his own Ascend Acoustics forum, all of the design decisions that went into when he first started using the Rowell ribbon tweeters. And so he was really a fan of the larger, the 70-20, and that refers to millimeters as 70 millimeters tall and 20 millimeters wide. He was a big fan of that tweeter. That's the one that is used in the Sierra Towers and the Sierra Horizon, their large speakers. And he was like, well, could I put that into a bookshelf speaker design? And I mean, it's physically possible, but it didn't make sense for the price point. It didn't make sense for the output capabilities. He would have to clamp down on the output of the 7020 ribbon tweeters so much to match what is basically a 5.5-inch woofer that's going along with it. Like it just didn't make sense in any sort of value proposition. So RAL does have a smaller ribbon tweeter. That's the one we find in the Sierra 2 ever since the original Sierra 2 and then into the Sierra 2 EX and now Sierra 2 EX version 2. All of them have used the 7010 tweeter, so 70 millimeters tall, but only 10 millimeters wide. And it has substantially less output capability, but output capability that makes sense for a compact bookshelf speaker. A much, much lower price. That was the big thing versus the 7020. But its low-end extension is very, very limited. And David talked at length about the challenge that he faced. Because over at Philharmonic Audio, we got Dennis Murphy, who was also enamored by the RAL ribbon tweeters and also designed a bookshelf speaker with the 7010, the smaller ribbon tweeter. But his solution was to make it a three-way bookshelf. He's like, look, both David and over at Philharmonic Audio, they agreed that like you kind of need to cross this thing at 3.5 kilohertz to the woofer. 3.7 kilohertz might be even better, which is a higher crossover frequency than a lot of other tweeters use. And so doing it as a three-way design, Dennis Murphy was like, okay, I can do that. I can get like a 2.5-inch dedicated mid-range driver that'll play nicely up to 3.5, maybe even 4 kilohertz. Won't play very low, but then it's a three-way design. I cross it over to woofer. David at Ascend, he already had the cabinet that he wanted to use. Like he was reutilizing the cabinet he already had from the Sierra 1. He had no intention of redesigning the entire laminated bamboo cabinet. He's like, what drivers and crossover changes can I make, but utilizing this same cabinet so that I can get economies of scale, getting all these cabinets made for me? What can I do? That necessitated it being a two-way design. And so with the Sierra 2, that original design, it's like he worked very closely with Sees, the driver manufacturer in Norway, and they had this new woven polypropylene material, this curve woofer that was kind of new at the time, and they're like, yeah, we can manipulate so many parameters, and he ended up having like a dedicated phase plug in there too so that the dispersion would work at higher frequencies. Like, we can get you up to 3.5 kilohertz, but like that's about as high as this 5.5-inch woofer can go, is about 3.5 kilohertz. He's like, okay, that might be just high enough to cross it over with the tweeter, but it is a crossover. The tweeter is still playing below 3.5 kilohertz. It's not as though it's a brick wall filter that cuts off. So you get down to 2.5 kilohertz, and it's like there's still output, and it's struggling enough that we're seeing this higher distortion, this 1.5% distortion, which is actually lower than the crossover point between the woofer and the tweeter in the Sierra 2. But the tweeter is still playing there, and then also that woofer is playing up higher. So we've got everything is a little bit of a compromise and a trade-off. What are you going to do with this thing? Are you going to build an entirely new cabinet and go to a three-way design, which is going to increase the cost necessarily all the way around? Or are you going to make the compromise of, well, we can get this woofer to just barely meet up with the bottom end of the tweeter. We're going to have to push both of them slightly out of their comfort zone, and we end up with a little bit of harmonic distortion in the bottom end of that crossover region as a result. So yeah, it was a trade-off, but that was the one they made. And then modifying that crossover to lower the crossover point of the tweeter to something that we're more used to with a dome tweeter did not help. It only made things worse. So there we go.
All right. That pretty much would have been my guess anyways.
Yeah.
Because that's usually when you're looking at something around 2.5 kilohertz. That's right where your woofer and your tweeter are going to cross over.
That's
so
right.
yes, there's going to be some distortion there. Excuse me. The key here is, we've said that many times. There's always trade-offs,
yes.
And no matter what design you're going with, I don't care if you're spending. We don't know what those JL Audio speakers sound like, right?
No.
But we know there's a trade-off there, and one of them is they weigh a bajillion pounds. There's a trade-off. There's one trade-off. In order to have their cabinets be made out of aluminum, that's part of the trade-off. So there's always some kind of trade-off that you're going to have to deal with. Size of speaker, how much output, where you can sit, performance based on, price and stuff like that. There's always going to be something.
And it was like when third parties measured Ascend's Sierra LX bookshelf speaker, which uses the same cabinet as the Sierra 1 and the Sierra 2. That's a thing that David has gone along because, as we mentioned before, the price of most speakers, it's the cabinet. That's the number one most expensive thing. So he's reutilized that same cabinet across many different bookshelf models. But, when we got those third-party measurements of the Sierra LX, and some people were like, how come, they measured and the sensitivity is kind of low. It's like 84 dB sensitivity, kind of low. And even though it's got these drivers that, can absorb a lot of power because the power handling is very high, it's like the maximum output, not super high. Like these aren't filling a really large room. I'm like, well, because David has talked about at length the goal of the Sierra LX. He's like, I want a bookshelf speaker that plays as low as the tower. Well, guess what? When that's a two-way speaker in this compact of a size, it can't play super loud. It's like,
with a guest,
I've got a goal. And in order to achieve that goal, something else has got to give. There's no free lunch. So it's like, it wasn't shocking in the least, but sometimes people want everything, and you can't have it.
Nathan, our recent discussions about Layton's very dry room acoustics brought some thoughts to mind for Nathan he'd like to discuss. First up, he wanted to point out that while calibration targets for audio might not be quite as well defined as they are for video, there do exist guidelines and standards. One such guideline that has continued to be updated and refined is Dolby's room design tool for Atmos Studios. They have interactive Excel spreadsheets, interactive Excel spreadsheet tools for home entertainment and for music, which lets you input your room's dimensions and speaker locations, as well as a selection of speaker and amplifier specifications, and then it calculates various targets, including minimum and maximum limits for RT60 decay times, plus a recommended target for specific frequencies from 125 hertz to 8 kilohertz.
Yep.
Which I guess still doesn't include everything. Just go with that, but whatever, it's close enough.
Yes. So anyway, I'm reutilizing some screenshots I took from way back in 2022, I think it was, when I first became aware of this. So just showing this is specifically about the RT60 decay times, and that chart on the right, mentioning the Dolby guide for what those decay times would be, which changes as room size goes along, but it's all within a pretty similar range. And then we're seeing these green lines at the top and bottom, which are like the upper and lower limits according to Dolby's own guidelines, and then the purple line in the middle, which is their recommendation based on the room size target. And then it's all been sort of condensed down now to like one sort of chart, which basically says around 2.5 milliseconds.
Yeah.
Or
so the latest
250 milliseconds. Sorry, I misspoke.
The latest edition of Dr. Floyd Toole's sound reproduction book also includes a target and optimum range graph for RT60 times, and it won't be any surprise to us, but the consensus is basically to aim for between 200 and 300 milliseconds overall, with very consistent decay times throughout the mid-range and a gradual rise in the bass and a gradual decline in the treble, both of which are inevitable. So it's a good thing they put them there, because it was going to happen whether you liked it or not. So there you go. So here's another picture that Rob's putting up there. If not, you can go to the next picture. So this lends credence to our comments that Layton's room, according to the Room EQ Wizard measurements that he took, might be over-damped at this point. But before revisiting Layton's room, specifically, do we have any comments about these latest figures and guidelines when it comes to recommended RT60 times? There's a full discussion thread over at AVS Forum, shocking, about Dolby's guidelines if anyone wants to dive into it further, which we'll have a link for that on our show notes. I love guidelines and recommendations. I think that they're a good thing to have so that we have a target to shoot for. What I don't like is when people grab onto it and use it as a weapon to make other people feel bad about their systems. Yes. So I swear, if one more truck or a fire department things goes by,
it's bound to happen, Tom.
It is annoying at this point. I've had at least a couple of motorcycles go by too. I can tell the difference. Anyway, so that's what I think guidelines are great. I think it gives us something to shoot for. It lets us know, because some people want to know, like, how they don't trust their ears. They want an external validation of what it is that they should. It sounds good to me, but I would really love it if somebody else told me it sounded good. And since Rob and Tom don't travel to people's houses because nobody's offered to pay us to do that, and sitting there and go, "Yep, sounds good to me," and then leave, which would be a great job. By the way, I would be happy to do it.
Some people have made that offer, but not enough to make a career out of it, and I am not free to do that type of travel. But yeah,
I am. Or more so at least. They want some validation, and this is one way to get it. Like I said, the problem becomes when somebody grabs onto it and uses it as a weapon to belittle other people, and I have a problem with that. If Leighton just wrote back and said, "Hey, I think my room sounds great, and I'm not taking any of these room treatments out. In fact, I'm going to add more because I think it'll make it sound better." Go with God, my friend. Do you? I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you think it sounds good. I think it probably does sound pretty good, and I think that most of us would walk in there and go, "Well, it sounds a little dead in here," and then the movie would start. We were like, "All right, this is great. I'm loving it. This is fun." I think that's how long somebody's quote-unquote disapproval would last. I'll take an overly damped room over overly live room any day of the week and twice on Sundays. So if you're happy with your room, if you're happy with how it sounds, that should be enough. But it is nice to have standards out there so people know, hey, this is what we go for and this is why we go for it. This is the reasons why we think that this is the target that we should be using.
No, my biggest comment, and I think it's similar to the one I made back in 2022 when it came across this, is that we're seeing this chart that's being floated around with these individual numbers under the Dolby guide, the basically 250 millisecond nearly across the board, just a slight rise in the bass and a slight roll off in the treble. But that is not really the official thing. It is still this range, right? That's the thing. It's a range. And that's why we don't have the same sort of specificity as we do in video, right? The color points in video are not a range. They are one single target number for exactly what the color coordinates and exactly what the nit value should be at this point. There's no ambiguity. This, even though it's a guideline, and I think a very, very reasonable guideline that makes complete sense, it's still a range. And Leighton's room is not big. We saw the sort of size of the room. It is enclosed. And so he probably falls within either the small or at most the medium volume. And we're seeing there that while the decay times that he measured in his room are lower than the figures under the, Dolby recommended, the purple line, they're still basically within the lower limit of that lower limit, right? Like that green line at the very bottom, which, as I mentioned back in 2022, that's basically what happens when you completely pad your room, right? You got absorbers everywhere, and you end up with that lower green line with, in the treble, decay times below 100 milliseconds, which is what we saw in Leighton's room. Yeah. So he's basically there at that lower limit, but you know what? It's the lower limit. He's not lower than that, or if he is, not by very much. He's still within this range to a large degree, certainly. And, that just says, okay, maybe he's on the drier side of things. I don't think anybody would really disagree with that. But it's not so, wild that we can only look at the 250 millisecond figures and say, well, you're wrong if you don't do that. I was simply saying that when he's talking about, should I add even more panels? Leighton's is the exception where I say, I wouldn't be telling you that you need to add even more. I like between 200 and 300 milliseconds myself. That means I fall within these guidelines and these recommendations, and there's, no argument that's happening between any of that. So I wouldn't tell you add even more, because if anything, I would take a few down to get closer to the recommended, or what I personally prefer. But that isn't saying that what he has now is outside of the limits and therefore wrong. So that's really my only comment. Keep in mind that it's a range, not a singular target.
So Leighton's using Leighton's room as a thought exercise, Nathan does not disagree with us that when it comes to our suggestion to remove some panels, but he'd also like to explore the alternatives to that, at least in theory. Leighton expressed how much he wants to keep the decay times in the base as low as the room will allow. Leighton stressed how much he does not want anything even close to boomy bass. So his concern was that if we remove some panels, well, that might bring his overall decay times and the decay times of the treble closer to those Dolby and Dr. Tool recommendations. It might also result in a small rise in the bass decay times, and he really, really doesn't want that. Mm-hmm. So what about keeping all the panels that Leighton already has, but altering them? I knew exactly where this was going when this question started. There's the idea of adding scatter plates to the fronts of any panels that do not already have them, but that will only impact the highest frequencies. So perhaps adding a membrane. Some DIY folks have found success partially covering the fronts of their panels with a foil rim, which retains the bass absorption, but basically turns them into reflectors for the mid-range and treble. There's also the option of simply change the fabric wrap to something like Klusnick's suede fabric, which their own measurements indicate acts more of an upper mid-range and treble reflector while still absorbing bass and lower mid-range very effectively. Basically, if Leighton were to keep all of his panels but alter some of them to make them less absorbent everywhere above the bass region, could he achieve his goals without having to worry whatsoever about his bass and without having to spend needlessly, well, he's already spending needlessly, or completely replace a bunch of panels that he already has? I mean, technically, yes.
Yes.
Could do this. I would worry that how first of all, this is not a zero sum. This is not a zero cost alternative here.
It's not zero cost. No.
You're talking about recovering some of these things, which is, if they're professionally done, is not easy to do yourself. And even if you did it yourself, I don't know how he did his panels, but I put about a bajillion staples back there to make sure that the fabric stayed exactly where I wanted it to be. So
it is less expensive than buying entirely new panels, though. So.
Generally speaking, yes.
Yeah.
So I would be concerned that of how this would affect the sound in the room negatively, putting actual essentially reflectors in there for the mid-range, the upper mid-range, and the treble. Scatter plates I would be less concerned about, but that would be less effective for what he's, what we're talking about him wanting to do. I think that the cheapest and easiest way to do that is just to start removing panels, do some measurements, say I'm happy with this, and then stop when you get to that point where you're happy with it.
Yeah, like obviously, just from the practical side of things, like taking some panels down and remeasuring does not cost anything besides time. It is truly a $0 out of pocket expense, other than the time that you're putting into it if you're deciding to charge yourself for the time that you spend. Like, that is the cheapest way to come at this. And then if you discover that, I took down too many panels, or I take down some panels and I got the mid-range and the treble decay times where I want them, but it did impact the bass in a way that I don't like, so I have to put panels back somehow. But if I put the very same panels back, then I end up back where I was. So then some type of change needs to be made at that point. My concern with going for covering the existing panels with something is that what Leighton had was very, very even and uniform decay times. They were very low. They were at the lower limit, but they were very even and uniform. You start doing things like adding scatter plates or partial foil covers, not entire foil covers, but partial foil covers, that type of thing. And it's like, well, you run the risk of making things uneven, right? And I'm like, that's worse. I would rather have really, really dry but uniform and even versus, well, some of these frequencies take longer to decay, but some of them are still very, very dry and very, very low decay times. I don't want uneven and ununiform. And so simply taking some panels down retains a lot of the uniformity while just, raising the overall decay times. But maybe the bass goes up a little bit along with it, and Leighton doesn't want to do that. So, it's a well-reasoned thought experiment, but practically speaking, it's still the cheapest and easiest to just take some down and measure and discover whether you need to put any back up or not.
Yeah. So lastly, he asks, let's imagine that Leighton were starting completely from scratch. He still has the same goals, but he's starting with bare walls and ceiling and can purchase whatever panels he needs. What would be our approach? So he really wants there. I mean, basically, he's going to end up with what we think he's going to end up with it as he removes panels. So, and what we kind of said. So if you look at the room where he's got,
there is a different way that he could have done this. Like we're not coming into this minus the knowledge that we already have.
Yeah.
We're just restarting in this room. And therefore, if I were starting from scratch, and I had the money to spend, I would strongly consider that for the corner base traps that he has, and he has floor to ceiling in all the vertical corners, and then he has some in the side wall to ceiling corners as well. It's not that I would not have all of those. I would probably opt to make them the range limiter, right? He got them from Gig, and I would probably opt to make them the range limiter panels from Gig, which are the ones that have the membrane on the front so that they reflect more of the mid-range and treble, but are actually even more effective in the deep bass than when they don't have the membrane there, because the number one thing Leighton wants to avoid is any hint of boomy bass. So being even more effective in the lower bass, but then not dampening the room quite as much in the mid-range and treble, that's exactly what those range limiter panels are for. So I would consider that, that's a big cost, right? We're talking about completely replacing all of his corner bass traps, which is a lot in his room. But if I were starting from scratch with the knowledge we already have in hand, that's basically where I start. Now, I would personally put up all of those range limited bass trap panels. I would myself probably still put some panels directly behind the speakers on the front wall and, a couple of panels on the back wall behind the seats. I would probably still do that. I'd probably have just broad range absorbers on the back wall behind me, because I want everything that's coming from the front and going past my head to just not reflect off of that back wall and muddy up anything. So broad range absorbers on the back wall. And then I'd probably have either range limiter or like combo panels that he already has on the front wall. I think that's a very good choice, is to have the combo panels on the front wall. I would start with that, measure, and see if anything else needs to be added. But that is the change I would make if the price were there and I was starting from scratch.
Okay. Yeah, you're still going to end up with a ton of bass trapping in this room.
But I would in his case opt for the range limiter ones. It makes sense.
Jonathan. Jonathan mostly sent us a link about REL's newest subwoofer series as a bit of a chuckle, but what do we make of their new REL Planar Series subwoofers that are due to come out next week? I'm clicking on it right now. Hold on.
Okay.
REL hasn't listed prices yet, but the PL1 and PL2 are both slim, which is 5.7 inches deep, wall-mountable subs that also have an interesting option of adding feet and a pair of wheels so that you can move them all around like a little cart. They come in piano black or gloss white finish, but there's a selection of grills so that you can customize their looks. The smaller PL1, which is basically a 20-inch square and 5.7 inches deep, and weighing 42 pounds, uses two 6.5-inch woofers along with a 10-inch passive radiator. It claims minus 6 dB extension down to 31 hertz in room, just like in a closet room. And the larger PL2, which is just a little bit longer at 25.5 inches, I guess, square, and weighing 45 pounds, uses a single 8-inch woofer plus the same 10-inch passive radiator, claimed for minus 6 dB point of 24 hertz in room. So it seems very generous to call either of these subwoofers, but let's go. Jonathan mainly got a kick out of the wheeled configuration, but wouldn't that make it difficult to put it in your seat to do the subwoofer crawl? With all seriousness, what are our thoughts? Let me look.
I bet they're not going to be cheap. They're coming from REL. I bet they're not going to be cheap. Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes people want wall-mounted, on-wall subwoofers, and there aren't a ton of choices out there. And anyone who is looking for an on-wall sub probably does care about the aesthetics. So I think the design choices that they made here kind of make a lot of sense. I don't really know why it has the wheels option. Like, who is honestly carting this subwoofer?
The cartoonish wheels, too. Yes. It's not like what you think. It's not casters on the bottom.
No.
It has a wheel on one edge.
Yeah.
That's humongatoid.
You kind of pick it up and wheel it around. I don't know who's actually utilizing that more than once.
The passive radiator is on the back of the...
It has to be. That's the only place surface that's large enough to hold it.
There's a picture of it.
And
it's on the back there of the double driver option one. Right. The other one, I think it might be in the front. It's hard to tell.
No, it's a single 8-inch driver, and that's all that's on the front. So it's the same 10-inch passive radiator on the back.
So when it wall mounts, it's mounting off the wall.
I don't know how that happens.
certainly not clear here.
I'm not super in love with this thing. I don't know that the wheels are ever going to get used more than once, but I'm not opposed to companies designing on-wall mountable subwoofers. I think that is an underserved market, to be honest. I don't buy for a second that a dual 6.5-inch woofers are playing down to 31 hertz, even in room. I mean, yeah, stick it in a corner in a closet, maybe, and even then they are saying minus 6 dB, so maybe that's not completely out to lunch. But this is basically a 50 hertz sub, which is that really a subwoofer at that point? But yeah, I'm not opposed to the aesthetic concerns. The
aesthetics are amazing.
Yeah.
I love the way this thing looks, other than the stupid wheels. It looks a little bit like a heater that's attached to your wall, but it's got the wood slats going across it. I think
that's one option. That you don't have to have that grill, but that's an option. Yeah,
I think it's a pretty amazing aesthetic choice here. I don't hate that at all.
No.
It's seems optimistic to call it a subwoofer, but it certainly is adding bass to a room. I love that they have it paired with in one of the pictures, a bookshelf speaker that clearly has some like a single driver and then like a tweeter kind of on top and a B&W esque look. Not B&W. What is the one that has the the tweeter on top? Is that B&W? No.
Well, B&W often has the sort of isolated tweeter and the little eyeball on top.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Then I thought of the right one. This is it. I don't hate it. It's not for me.
Right.
It's not for you. It's not for anybody on this podcast. But I think it's certainly an interesting solution. So
they might prove me wrong, but I'll bet you dollars to donuts this thing costs more than an SVS 3000 micro. Which is now the new 3000 Micro Revolution. And I bet it doesn't perform as well as the 3000 Micro Revolution. I'd be very confident in making that bet. So if I were looking for a exceedingly easy to hide physically small sub, I'd probably be looking SVS 3000 Micro Revolution, but that is not wall mountable. So if wall mountable is the thing, I like the aesthetic design. I just don't think this is actually going to be a fantastic performer. And coming from REL, I bet it's going to be expensive. And I don't think those wheels are getting used more than once.
Yeah, wheels are kind of silly. If they come with the wheels, if it's just sort of like you're also getting wheels, and then or you can wall mount it, or
but
you
these
can
also
put it on
like
stands.
what did they say 40 something, 42 pounds, 45 pounds? Like
That's not.
Do you need the wheels? Can you not pick up a 42-pound sub?
Some people can't.
I know,
That's
but
very
still,
ableist
it's like,
of you.
Of all the subs that need integrated wheels, the one that weighs 45
You won't see them on the
pounds.
JBL speakers, do you? They definitely need wheels. Like they need some sort of handle.
The
to
JL
tip
audio
back
for the 272-pound tower. You might need some wheels to move that sucker around.
Yeah, casters on the bottom of that thing. Christian has a 77-inch Samsung S95F QD OLED TV positioned within a large bookcase opening that is 86 inches wide. Boy, this is a funky picture, but okay.
It serves the purpose.
He is well aware that our first thought when it comes to sound system upgrade would be to add a pair of self-powered speakers, but that's a no-go in this setup. If he's going to do better than the TV's built-in speakers in this particular room, it has to be a slim soundbar, no sub, no wireless surround speakers, just the soundbar on its own, and of course, it needs to physically fit. The space below the TV is 4 3/4 inches high and 8 inches deep, and as mentioned, up to 86 inches wide. He's not particularly worried about Atmos virtualization, but he would like a dedicated center channel that can be independently adjusted. Nope. But anyways,
it exists. I've got a whole list coming up.
But if this soundbar could sound better than awful when playing back music, it would also be very much appreciated as well. So any suggestions? The budget is not the main concern. So if it costs a bit extra to meet all of his criteria, that's okay. Didn't RBH make a totally customizable soundbar system?
But it's a passive speaker bar.
That's true.
I don't think that's what he's going for.
Well, that might not be true. That might be true, but there's certainly space below. It looks like there's like drawers back here. So could he put a little amp down there for the 2-channel RBH soundbar that can be customized to whatever you want? That would be my solution.
Okay.
I've
got a choice that if you're willing to pay the price for it, which is not insane. I feel pretty strongly my top choice is Klipsch's Flexus Core 300. This actually does like 5.1.2 all in one bar. Yes, it's a stretch to call it 0.1 for the built-in little woofers in there, but it gets down to about 50 hertz, which is better than most other sound bars all on its own. I kind of like that it is capable of accepting and playing back an Atmos soundtrack because, as I've mentioned before, the highest bit rate from any of your streaming services is coming in the Atmos soundtrack version. So I like that it can accept that and play it back. The inputs on the Klipsch Flexus Core 300 are pretty good. It's actually 4K 120 support on its HDMI pass-through, and then it has HDMI eARC, of course, to connect directly to your television. And for $900 on sale, it's $1,200 regularly, which is kind of pushing it. But he said the budget is not really the primary concern here. $900 on sale. I'm like, the Flexus soundbars I've been pretty impressed with, just in terms of sound quality. I've been very critical of almost all the soundbars out there. There are very few that I say I think are worth the price. At $1,200, I still struggle to say that it's like truly worth the price, but you know, soundbar form factor is the only thing that's going to fit. I think this is definitely one of the best sounding soundbars that's out there. At $900, I'm kind of willing to entertain it. That's my top recommendation by quite a margin if you're willing to pay that price for it. Yeah. So
the RBH1 is customizable width-wise, but not height-wise, and it's almost 7 inches high, so that's not going to work.
Okay. So
keep going.
If the $900 is just too much, if you were like, yeah, I was, picturing that I'm willing to spend a little bit more than $200 on a soundbar, but not upwards of $1,000 type of thing. So the Klipsch Flexus Core 200, which is a step down, of course, currently on sale for $400, regularly $575. So they market it as a 3.1.2, still capable of Atmos. But here's the thing. This one actually down converts all incoming audio signals to stereo first, and then up mixes them to 3.1.2. It doesn't do straight decoding and playback. And so that's not, in my opinion, really the best way to handle the audio signals by down converting it is just decoding stereo to begin with. And then they're calling it Dolby Atmos, but it's really Dolby Surround up mixer. That's what's built into this thing. The Core 300 is full straight on ahead decoding, discrete decoding of the original up to Atmos signals. So it does have the superior capabilities and sound quality there. But the Klipsch, like I say, overall the sound quality I'm hearing from the Klipsch Flexus soundbars, I'm like, I'm quite impressed by the sound quality from these, and at $400, that's a pretty reasonable price. Similarly, there's JBL's new Bar 300 Mark II at $450, but it does a similar thing. This down converts everything to stereo first, and then up mixes it to its 5-channel playback. So the ones in this price point do a similar thing. Now, there's one that I don't think should be overlooked. I don't know how good it sounds because it's a pre-order at this point. But you have a Samsung TV, and Samsung soundbars, what I will say is they sound very clear in the dialogue. I don't think this is the best choice for music. I think the Klipsch is superior for music playback, and you mentioned that that's maybe not a priority, but it's something that you would like to have. But I will say the Samsung soundbars do a very good job with clear dialogue, which is the number one thing that many people care about with a soundbar. For $1,000, their new HWQS90H, it has all of the Samsung integration things. You can actually still have your OLED's TV built-in speakers working in concert. It's that, Q Symphony that Samsung calls it. I don't necessarily think the results are always fantastic, but it's going to be an option if you want to do that. So I wouldn't overlook it. This is a fully integrated 7.1.2, fully discrete decoding Dolby Atmos soundbar from Samsung, the QS90H. But it is $1,000, so it's costing even more than the Klipsch while it's on sale. And yeah, my experience between the two is I still think the Klipsch sounds better, particularly for music. So yeah, inputs on the back of the Samsung are, again, you've got full HDMI 4K 120 pass-through, so it's equal on that footing with the Klipsch. Then there is the Sennheiser. You wouldn't be able to get the Ambio soundbar Max because it is physically too tall for the space. But the Ambio soundbar Plus from Sennheiser is $1,000, and it might be a reasonable. This one, if the thing you care about most is having some bass output, this one plays the lowest in the bass out of all of these. Out of all the ones that are going to physically fit with no added subwoofer and no added surround speakers or anything like that, the Ambio soundbar Plus does play lowest. It gets down to about 42-ish hertz. So like I said, the Klipsch is about 50. This gets down to about 42. So if that's the number one priority, it's $100 more than the Klipsch right now. That is with the Ambeo Soundbar Plus on sale for $1,000. But yeah, that might be an option there. And then lastly, I'd probably be remiss. Oh, by the way, yeah, the Sennheiser has more HDMI inputs, so it works as a bit of a switcher, but they are not 4K 120. They're 4K 60. So then the Sonos Arc Ultra, that's going to be a consideration, $1,100. And honestly, it needs a subwoofer. It needs a subwoofer added in. So I'm not going to say that for $1,100 it's the best choice, but I didn't want to be remiss and not mention it at all. I'm done.
Yeah. So I went to Leon, which is a company that I've seen before at trade shows, and they build custom sound bars for almost any TV. And it can be completely custom widths and stuff like that. And you can choose to make them just a center channel, essentially, a 2-channel or 3-channel. And again, I don't, you probably would need some sort of amplifier for this, but they do have an option that's 4.5 inches tall.
Okay.
And just barely fit.
Yeah.
But you can choose what you want down there. And they're not cheap. They're like $2,200, but I did put a link in there for that. This is going to be a more custom thing for you. So you'd have to probably reach out to them and maybe even go through a dealer to get to them. So Rob's stuff is all consumer level, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The Leon speakers is more, is bespoke, if you will. And they do have at least one option that fits your height requirement. Okay. Because the depth requirement isn't really an option in these things. None of them are going 8 inches deep. So there you go. David. After a few decades, David will be moving back to Florida from Minnesota. He will finally be able to have an enclosed home theater room again, he thinks.
I mean, it seems pretty clear.
It seems pretty clear. Maybe he already has a house here. It's a bonus room, roughly 19.5 by 16.5. And there are windows all along the left wall and doors to a utility closet, bathroom, and storage closet all along the right wall. On the front wall, there's an opening to the stairway at the front right corner. And they're going to have a door installed so that this bonus room is enclosed. So it looks like stairs. There's stairs there. Yep. So he's going to have stairs and a door up there.
But he's going to have a door installed where those stairs are so that this is actually an enclosed, pretty darn close to a rectangle of a room.
Yeah. Yep. We're looking at it. And it's mostly a rectangle. There's a little bit of a bump out.
Just a little
in one spot, but that's okay. So does it make a big difference if the door they have installed is solid core versus hollow core? Big difference? No. Does it make a difference in sound transmission? I think objectively it does. But I don't know that it was going to be as someone who had one installed and experienced it. If you don't have this, actually looks like it might have an air return in the room there.
Yeah, because there is
two vents in the ceiling,
and the utility closet is adjoining this room. So the chances of being able to get air return, not having to worry about the stairs, that seems like more likely than a lot of other rooms. Double check, make sure that air return really can work in this room once it's fully enclosed. But it seems like a likelihood in here. Yeah.
So it might help with sound transmission going down the stairs. Yeah. Right now, your major source of sound transmission is going to be the sound that's going down the stairs. But once you put a door on there, is the fact that solid or hollow core door going to make a big difference between that? We don't know. If that is still the main way that sound is transmission from the room down the stair or to the rest of the house, then yes, it will make a difference.
Like, what's going to make a bigger difference than purely solid core versus hollow core is sealing around the door. If you get a hollow core door that is sealed around it, that is going to be superior to a solid core door that still has a big old gap underneath it. But to me, this is kind of like we're doing this once, right? We're not going to do this door a whole bunch of times. So I would rather have a sealed solid core door. That's going to be as good as the door can be. And then if there's sound transmission, it's not the door's fault.
The door itself will cost quite a bit more. Quite a bit more. But the installation of the door in some ways is a little bit easier because it's a solid core. So when they would inevitably have to trim the door, they don't have, like, if you because there is a piece of wood inside the door at the top and the bottom that holds the front of a hollow core door that holds the front on, and then there's other pieces, throughout that hold the faces of the door on. So if they have to cut up past that, which sometimes they do, they didn't have to reinstall something at the bottom to give it a bottom, basically.
But either way, if you can have some weather stripping around the edges and then a sweep at the bottom so that you are not having an open air path, and like we say, double check that you do have an air return inside this room, but we think it's more likely than not that you actually do in this scenario, then as long as that's all okay, sealing around the door is more important, honestly. So if this is a real cost issue, then it's okay to go with a hollow corridor that is sealed. That is going to be more important.
So he asks, how does he determine how much room treatments he needs? He plans to add new rugs. Bigger and thicker would be better, correct? But what about the rest of his acoustic treatment plan? How many panels and where should they go? So yes, the rug itself, I think, is less important. I mean, yes, thicker would be nicer, but that's for a lot of reasons, not just sound. But the pad underneath is what you're really you're going for the thickest pad that you can get. But the acoustic treatments for this room, you've got windows all along one wall. You have doors in many of the places on the other wall.
Yeah.
Chances are you're going to want to black out this room, I would imagine, is what you'll be going for. If you are going to keep those windows exposed, if you will, because you, or at least have access to them, that makes it a little bit harder. You're not going to be able to put room treatments over the windows easily. It can be done, but it's not as easy.
But I mean, that's
really
all side
sense.
walls, so I'm not super worried about side wall treatments, honestly.
To me, I'm looking at that back wall and going, there's your money shot.
And the furniture that we're seeing in these photos, that's not his furniture. That was from the listing of the sale, so the furniture placement will be different than what we're seeing in the photos.
Yeah. But it sounds like he wants to put his TV next to the door next to the stairway.
Next to the stairway, yeah. That is certainly the plan. So I mean,
that back wall sounds like where I would put a vast majority of my my room treatments as far as base trapping and just trying to catch as much stuff as possible.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's fairly easy rules of thumb, honestly. If you're like figuring out just like how much treatment should I have in this room, right? Start with base trapping. We always start with base trapping. Start with broadband base trapping. So I'm not going to recommend that you go for range limiters in here, just regular broadband, and that can be DIY. You can make that with your own rock wool insulation if you want to keep the price way down. But yeah, we want base trapping. Corners are geometrically efficient because you can cover more surface area with a thicker, distance between the front of the panel and the back of the panel, including an air gap that can be built right in. But it's not like actually necessary that they go in corners, although I think it makes sense in your room. And perhaps it can be as in the form of like false soffits that go around the wall to ceiling. That would make a lot of sense in this room. It could fit in with the decor while giving you very good base trapping performance and not taking up a lot of, width or length or anything like that or looking strange. But it certainly could go in the rear corners, that front left corner. You could have vertical placement there. Be a little bit tough in the front right corner because the door to the stairway is going to be there. But these are all options. And what we're aiming for is just total up the surface area of the room. So it's just length times width times 2 for the ceiling and the floor, and then the length times the height times 2 for the two side walls, and the width times height times 2 for the front walls. So you total all that up. That's your total surface area, and then we want about 10% of that surface area covered in base traps. And honestly, I don't know how dedicated you want this room to be, but a lot of people can stop there. A lot of times that's all you need to get the overall RT60 decay times within those limits. It might not be at the absolute recommended limit between 200 and 300, but you're going to be like under 500 milliseconds, which is so much better than a completely untreated room. You're going to be within the guidelines, maybe not to the full recommended, but it's going to be a pretty decent sounding room. You could stop there. Covering 10% of the total surface area of your room in base traps, broadband base traps, is often enough. If you want to add some more treatments there, I would definitely look at the front wall and the back wall in this room. I think that's going to be enough. I think if you treat directly behind your front speakers on the front wall and you treat some of the back wall of this room, again, you basically go as thick as you're able to, right? Try not to go less than 4 inches thick. But if you can do 6 or 8, so much the better. But yeah, I think that's really all you need. I think it'll be in very good stead. That's how I would treat this room.
I agree. There are already 3 in-ceiling speakers, 3, installed at the front of the room directly above where the TV would go. He doesn't really have any intention of using them unless we think it will somehow make sense.
Certainly not as your front 3 speakers. Definitely
not as your front
not.
3
I don't want
speakers,
in-ceilings.
but maybe as your top fronts or something like that.
Exactly.
He has SVS Ultra Series speakers for his front 3 and 4 prime elevation speakers to use as surrounds. And 1 PB4000 sub and 1 PB12 Plus sub to handle the bass duties. In his previous house, was that?
Should be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his previous house, he had some Sonance Mag 6 in-ceiling speakers that he bought on a recommendation. Any reason to use the same Sonance Mag 6 speakers, that the same speakers wouldn't be a top choice for Atmos anymore? And could he repurpose the existing in-ceiling speakers at the front of his room as front heights, or should he ignore them entirely, install 4 new Sonance Mag 6 speakers for better Atmos placement? I mean, we don't know what you don't know, it sounds like, but we don't know what speakers are up there, and I don't think it really matters. So if they are close enough placement, then Bob's your uncle.
I mean, they're pretty far forward.
Yeah.
They're pretty far forward.
What you could do is any number of things. You could, if like I said, Rob thinks they're very far forward. I don't really notice where they were in this room.
It's a little bit hard to see, but I mean, they're right up at the front wall. They're just at the ceiling, right up at the front wall. They were.
It kind of depends on where you're going to end up placing your couch too, because remember, they're supposed to be within an angle, right? So if they end up in the right location on your ceiling, you can do one of 2 things. In my mind, you can just hook them up and see how they sound, and then use them as the front heights if they're in the right or the whatever top fronts or whatever they end up being. Yeah. And you can end up using them and saying, oh, they sound fine. I mean, they're okay, which is more than likely going to be the case for Atmos because it doesn't really matter. And then your Sonance speakers you could put in the back.
Yeah, some top rears. In a similar location as far as where in relation to your seat.
Or if you're like, I don't really think they sound as good as my Sonance ones. I can notice a difference. Well, there's already a hole there.
Yes.
Take the ones out, and then hopefully your Sonance will fit in there, or the Sonance will be a little bit bigger. Hopefully they're not smaller, because if they're smaller, that is a problem. But if they're the same or bigger for the size of the hole, you just pop them in, and there you go. You're done. But if you and then that's option number 2. Option number 3 is you hook them up. The ones in the front sounds pretty good. You're fine with that. The ones in the back sound pretty good. Well, guess what? You have an extra pair of speakers just lying around. Yeah. What are you going to do with those? Yeah. You could now put 6 overhead speakers.
You could.
And
you could put some top middles.
You can now have top middles. Are you going to utilize them right away? No, you're not.
No, he would need to upgrade his AV receiver, but hey, there's an excuse.
There's an excuse. Or you now, if somebody says, well, you don't know that you want to do it right now, but maybe you'll do it in the future. You literally, it's right there. It's at your fingertips. You can do it right away.
So the only thing I'll say for certain is do not use them as your front 3. Use your SVS Ultra Series speakers as your front 3. Do not use in-ceiling speakers as your front 3. Yeah, it should be easy enough to experiment and see if it's worth using them as your front heights / top fronts. I'm not completely opposed to it, but they're not really in the correct locations for top fronts. I am still definitely recommending the Sonance Mag 6 because remarkably you can still buy them, so I'm really happy about that. They're a fantastic match for the speakers you already have, so yeah, I think you're in good shape whatever way it goes.
Yeah. Infinite Gary, last week when we discussed the reasons why the colors on his professionally calibrated projector don't look identical to the colors on his professionally calibrated OLED, he didn't hear us mention anything about the 4th white subpixel that is present in his OLED TVs. He's read about how that white subpixel can reduce color saturation. So is that playing a role? Would an OLED that only uses red, green, and blue subpixels look as true to life as this projector? No. What? No. So
we were talking last week about a SDR only situation. We weren't getting into HDR because his projector doesn't do HDR. So it's SDR only. It's not that the white subpixel is necessarily not utilized whatsoever, but primarily the white subpixel is there to just boost nit output for HDR specifically. On the newer LG OLEDs, you can actually choose for SDR to not engage the what do they even call that setting? It's like light boost or something with the word boost in it, and you can turn that off, which actually disengages that white subpixel for SDR content because it isn't necessary. It can hit SDR highlights with just the red, green, and blue and not utilizing that white at all. It is an option. You can turn the white subpixel on even for SDR and then get like close to 1,000 nits for SDR, which is nowhere near the spec, but if you're in a sun-drenched room, maybe you want to do that. But that white subpixel is there strictly to boost light output and primarily for HDR. So when you're comparing them in SDR, it's really not a factor. That's not a factor in desaturating the colors. It is the case that in terms of measuring color volume, when that white subpixel is active for the brightest HDR highlights, then the colors become desaturated because you're including a white light as part of the light output to get that higher nit level solely. But yeah, it's really not the case in SDR. So the color differences that you're seeing between your projector and your OLED, it's still, I think, primarily a case of the viewing environment and the other things around it, as well as the difference in contrast that you're definitely seeing. You can get, QD OLEDs. They just have red, green, blue. They don't have any white subpixel. You're still going to perceive those colors as different than your projector. That's what's going to happen for all the reasons that we talked about last week.
Yes.
That's it.
So that's it.
That's all the questions we had this week.
All right. I want to thank our listeners of the week. I want to thank all our 121 patrons over at patreon.com, as well as those people in the past who have not done it recently, but those people in the past who've gone to avrant.com and clicked on the buy us a cup of coffee link and send us a PayPal donation. Yeah,
once again, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 121 patrons over there.
Thank you to John, who sent in a movie code for me to test. It does work.
Yeah, surprisingly, because it wasn't Warner Brothers, but maybe not so surprisingly. John, thanks for sending that movie code. Very nice of you to do that.
Also, those who sent in notes of gratitude, including John, Guy, Jason, Russell, Steve, JR, Brandon, Joe, Jefferson, Luke, Mark, V, Scott, James, Jacob, Matthew, David, Sean, Dan, Hall, Paul, Jonathan, Dean, Theo, Stephen, JD, that was JR before, Jocelyn, Richard, Nelson, Rob, J, and Chris. Thank you for thanking us.
In case you couldn't tell, I did go back through all of the Sofabaton X1S entries, and I marked down anybody who said notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going. So to say those names one more time so they came from my lips, we got John, Guy, Jason, Russell, Steve, JR, Brandon, Joe, Jefferson, Luke, Mark, V, Scott, James, Jacob, Matthew, David, Sean, Dan, Hal, Paul, Jonathan, Dean, Theo, Stephen, JD, Jocelyn, Richard, Nelson, Rob, J, and Chris. Thank you all so much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, well, first of all, let's congratulate those who won again. I don't remember the names.
Yes, I did put a little star beside their names, and I have to scroll down and find it because we had Michael A, and we had Joe D, and we had Micah N. Those were the 3 winners of our free Sofabaton X1S remote giveaway. We will be contacting you via email. In fact, you've probably already seen that. You're going to have to reply back with your mailing address, and we're going to have Sofabaton send those X1S remotes to you 3 lucky winners.
Yeah. All right. If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.